buy a fucking leg extension machine, throw it in the garage.
Really? So you bought the machines one at a time?
I bought the machines one at a time. And that's kind of one of the biggest questions that I get now. You know, how do you get into something? How do you do something? And it's really just like, decide you're going to do it, break it down into steps, start fucking taking some steps.
Executing the steps. Yeah. Jamie Ehling is the CEO and founder of Big Iron Gym. Born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Jamie moved to Everett, Washington at the age of 14. Once a heroin addict, he recovered through fitness and started Big Iron Gym with $0 shortly after overcoming his addiction. Jamie's journey into the fitness industry is both inspiring and transformative. Welcome to the Iron Mind Podcast. Join me, Josh Brumley, as we explore the minds of those who've forged their paths through legal battles, business triumphs, and creative conquests. We uncover the stories behind their iron wills and innovative minds. Get ready for thought-provoking conversations, practical insights, and actionable advice. This is the Iron Mind Podcast. Thanks for joining the show, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks for having me, for sure.
Yeah, so Big Iron Gym, huge deal. You're the CEO. How did you get into being an entrepreneur? How did you get into fitness? Have you always been like a gym guy? What's the deal?
No, I definitely haven't always been a gym guy. And if anything, you know, I was a chunky little kid. And so like that's insecurity is in the back line of everything, you know, drug addiction and all that.
Yeah.
And then once I kind of really started to find myself later in life, fitness and entrepreneurship and all that kind of stuff kind of just fell in hand. And picked up its own momentum, you know what I mean? So, yeah, early on, very, very insecure and moved around a ton as a kid. I came up here when I was 14, which was kind of like a hard time, high school age, moving across the country.
Yeah.
My mother had a psychotic break, and so it was like a really I'm always finding myself in crazy traumatic situations, which now at this point has like, you know, turned into something that has been a positive, you know, because it
led you to this, but you're like, damn, there was a lot of trauma that led me to this.
Yeah, working your way out of tough situations, you know, and you know, so early on, like a lot of drug addiction, just normal stuff, weed. But by the time I was out of high school, you know, meth, pain pills, did iron work for 15 years. So it was like kind of a high intensity,
really stressful kind of body, physical job.
Stressful physically, yeah. And a lot of, you know, it's a job that you can get that's decent paying. And I'm sure you deal with a lot of like construction workers and union guys. And it's a job you can get that's high paying. You don't have to have a lot of education, background. You can be a fuck up and you can get into it. And if you're good at your job, then you're good, you know?
Yeah.
So that was it. Like, you know, I've always been kind of talented. So naturally I was good at the work, and that covered up for a lot of other mistakes, you know, allowed me to keep getting off the hook for fucking up and DUIs. And
they were like, well, you just really like the guy. He's a hard worker when he is here. So let's just keep him on the job kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually, that turned into heroin addiction when I was like 26, 27. I already had a kid, my oldest son, Brody, and, you know, down to nothing, ready to kill myself. No money, no hope, just, you know, homeless in the street. And family is kind of what pulled me through that. My brother came, grabbed me out, you know. Thank God for him. He's always been kind of my cornerstone. And the process of recovery and finding some faith in myself and finding some faith in God. You know, I was kind of godless before that. Allowed me to start building some skills that I could like start to stack on top of each other. So, you know, first it was just like getting clean, then doing some of the personal work. The self-reflective, I would say, is like the most important skill that I learned out of that, because you have to fucking look at yourself if you're going to get past it. Like, yo, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And up until then, like, I would never say like, yo, I was insecure. Like, wouldn't even admit that to somebody, but you have to look like, yo, what's going on with myself? Like,
why am I here right now?
Your childhood, and so in a way that's like a very, you know, the deepest blessing that I ever received in my life
was that ability to be introspective,
going through that. And because that changed everything for me. And once I started to kind of look at myself and figure out, you know, what I had going on, then you could start to work on those things, you know. So started with personal work, got back into construction, did that for a little bit, and just started to slowly chip away at these things. And then fitness came along afterwards, like, okay, you know.
So it was like a lot of physical work that you had always done, but you were never like, I'm going to be at the gym. Like, you were just never that guy. You were just doing physical work. And so the gym stuff came after years of manual labor jobs.
Years of manual labor, and still, you know, as hard as I was working, I'm still not happy with my physique. Dude, you know what I'm saying? Like, every day,
you're pretty swole, dude. I don't know if you're listening to this, check out the YouTube version, because he's pretty. I wouldn't fight him.
You'll see in like bodybuilding competition, very common. You know, everybody's is very hard on themselves and how they look. You know, even though they're some of the best looking people on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, but doing that work on that is what keeps me satisfied, because, you know, that was an issue for me, being insecure. So you start to do some work on that, like, oh, okay, let's get in shape.
You start to see that progress, and it becomes a new addiction where you're like addicted to being a good version of yourself.
Yeah, you get some wins.
Yeah.
And then same thing in business, started to think about how to escape that construction trap, how to escape that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle trap. You know, you can really get spun into that as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's plenty of people that can find happiness in just their daily work like that, and having a daily thing that they do. But for me, you know, I wanted more. So same thing like fitness, like I wanted more. Starts with, you know, the realization of what you actually want. And then I had no idea. I didn't, you know, the first thing that came to mind was coffee stand, because I had my now ex-wife was just at home with the kids. And I'm thinking like, okay, we got to get some income coming in beyond what I have doing this construction, like a little business. So we saved up, got a little coffee stand. Didn't bring in a ton, but I started to get the idea of like what passive revenue streams could look like coming in.
It kind of started that brain of man, maybe I should be an entrepreneur, not just working for someone else. Like, how can I create wealth instead of just a paycheck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now there's much more of that. I think entrepreneurship is hot right now. It's through the roof because of social media and just the access that everybody has, you know, so everybody can see people
like
out there
this.
making money. Fuck, what am I doing this? I get on Instagram and
learn a new trick and then be selling that trick out on the streets. Maybe that's not the best way to put it, but I mean, like, you know.
You could be selling tricks on the street or whatever, right? But
entrepreneurship, you know,
entrepreneurship,
that bug was in you, And the coffee stand was the beginning of that transition out of
not even really entrepreneurship. Yeah, I was just thinking of ways to get out of that fucking paycheck to paycheck
manual labor job.
Because I would be dying for overtime. Like, yo, let me get that overtime. 10-hour days, 7 days a week, shit like that. And that felt like a lot of money to me at the time. Like, oh damn, I made $2,000 this week. $2,500.
Yeah.
But it's every second of your time. Waking up, going to work, making your meals. You just got enough time to sleep.
Yeah.
It wasn't really until we had the little coffee stand thing going on. Didn't still, weren't killing it, just seen that model, just making a couple extra grand doing that. And I was like, well, let me do something for me now. What do I like to do? I was into fitness at this time, at the gym. So I would do my grind at work, and then hit the gym and put in an hour and a half at the gym, boom, sleep. Yeah. I realized like, okay, well, that was the one that I met. My cousin's husband was one of the most successful people that I knew. He runs a CEO for some power company in Brazil, and I had a chance to talk to him at a family reunion. I was like, yo, what do you do, dude? Like,
yeah.
And his advice was like, just find something that you're passionate about and do that. So when I'm thinking about my business, I'm like, gym, okay, that's what I like, fitness. Still Instagram and all that was going, but I didn't know anything about it at the time. And we didn't have a bunch of money saved up. I was still working day to day, but I knew like, okay, I want to try to do a gym. And so, looking on Biz Buy Sell, all that, $500,000, that was like, no way, I'd never do that.
Yeah.
But I just started to piece it out, dude. I get some money, buy a fucking leg extension machine, throw it in the garage.
Really? So you bought the machines one at a time?
I bought the machines one at a time. And that's kind of one of the biggest questions that I get now. How do you get into something? How do you do something? And it's really just like, decide you're going to do it, break it down into steps, start fucking taking some steps.
Executing the steps. Yeah. No, that's so funny that you say that, because for anyone who's listening to this, we've recorded 2 other podcasts before this with other entrepreneurs, and that is absolutely the advice that both of them gave, and it's absolutely how I feel as well. Like, starting a business is just about taking the first step to just do it. Commit to it. Tell yourself, this is something I'm really going to do. And the difference between an entrepreneur and someone that works 9 to 5 is the entrepreneur didn't just have the idea of doing something, they took action to do it. And that's something that's so paralyzing for most people, that they just never do it. What was it that made you decide that you wanted to take that first step?
Desperation, honestly. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's the biggest. We're always talking to ourselves, whether we know it or not. And like that skill of being introspective, I would start to get miserable. Like, I was getting miserable doing construction. I was fighting with people at work, asshole construction worker. And I had to look at where that's coming from. And when you only know one thing, it's tough to make that step, like, and take a risk and do something, because you're so locked into your pattern. And that's where that comes into play, is like, okay, yo, fuck, dude, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing right now, and I'm gonna have to make a change to do something new.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying not to say a bunch of uhs.
No, he'll edit it. Don't worry about that. Don't. We're just having a conversation. Don't even worry about that.
That's one of the skills I've been trying to work on, is
it's hard,
articulation,
right?
and speaking.
Public speaking is did you know that public speaking is the #1 fear in the world? And so it outranks the fear of death. People would rather be the body in the coffin than the person who's speaking at the eulogy. And
Yeah,
that is
crazy.
like mind-boggling to me, because I'm like, public speaking is not that big of a deal, but it takes a long time to get really good at it, and doing it is how you get good at it. But if people are scared to take that first step, they'll never get good at it, and it starts to build into like a phobia. And I just can't imagine being so scared of something like talking that I would rather be dead. That's wild to me.
I used to feel like that 100% when I was in school, you know, all that insecurity. Fuck, if I had to get up in front of class, I'd turn red, dude. I would fucking hate that shit. And that's why I really pushed myself on the bodybuilding too. It was like, it wasn't really, it was another one of those little challenges to conquer. Like, fuck, get on stage naked in front of people, pretty much.
And have them judge your
and
appearance.
have them judge your appearance. You know, that's, and, you know, committing to something like that and then following through and doing it, the reward is so great that you'll want to just keep doing things like that.
That's there's an idea that there's like this addictive quality to those successes that makes people who do take that chance and get to the point of feeling that seek it out for the rest of their lives. I've had boxers on here, other attorneys. Like, I feel it when I win at trial, or when I have a good result for a client. It's so addictive to have that winning feeling. And I'm using the term addictive in like a healthy way though, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to be the best version of yourself. And so many people don't find what they're passionate about to seek out that winning feeling, that they just go through life working for people in a job that they're miserable about because it's paying the bills, and they have that safety net of like, well, if I just keep doing what I'm doing, I can still eat and pay my bills and take care of my kids, and so I'm just going to keep doing it. But I think it's really important to find that thing that you're passionate about. And it's just so hard because everyone's so different, right? Like, I didn't know that I wanted to be a lawyer. I just kind of did it one day and was like, I hope I like after law school being a lawyer. Hopefully that's a cool thing. But it's worked out great. And the gym and being an entrepreneur is something that does that for you. How do people find their passion if they don't know what they love, what they're doing with their lives is just, you know, floating like you felt in the construction world? How can they seek out what they're passionate about?
Yeah, and beyond passion, finding what you feel like your purpose is.
Yeah.
Because passion will only take you so far as well, I think. Like, and that's why I learned when I start getting some wins, start getting some things like, you know, money's not going to do it. Girls aren't going to do it. All these things, you'll end up in that same spot. And so it's the same thing, like kind of turning the lens on yourself, for me, and getting, with God too. Sometimes I got to reevaluate, like, dude, what the fuck am I doing this for? I start to get tied up in things, you know, fuck, I want to get this fucking house. I want to get this car. I want to get this girl. Mm-hmm. And then,
you lose sight of yourself.
You lose sight of yourself a little bit. And, purpose is the thing that you could fucking drill down onto, that fucking hard bedrock. And, you know, for me, what I really enjoy about fitness is opening the door for people to do the things that we're talking about and find some pieces of themselves, you know, that they can start to build themselves up. Mm-hmm. And for kids especially, that's why, you know, I try to make the gyms fun and cool and Instagram and lights and music.
Yeah.
You know, the old people, some people, older people don't like that. It's not their vibe. But, you know, to me, a young person, adolescent, 14 to, because that was me, you know, that was me, you know, and, you know, 14 to 25, if you just picked one thing to do, college, all these other fucking things, go get your body right, feeling like, you know, you're really comfortable in your skin and your body, and like that will just do so much for your confidence and your life, and your all longevity. The other, that's your temple, dude. That's what you got to fucking live in. That's what we're operating our experience from. Yeah,
no, it's a very weird thing to think people put so much time and effort and energy into their brain and, you know, going to college, learning. I mean, I've spent 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of law school, 2 years for my MBA, all of that to put all this work in and then say, well, I invested so much time into what I know, but I didn't spend that time thinking about what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, like the sleep that I'm getting, how this is stress and it is affecting my body. And I didn't really get into like being in a gym until after law school. And then now when I don't go to the gym, I start to be like on a short fuse. Like I'm way more irritable. And then I get that, the release of being physically active again and feeling better, sleeping better. It affects so much about who you are as a person, and it's so important. And I think people kind of lose sight of that. Americans especially, right? We drive everywhere. We don't really walk. Like in Europe, people are walking to the grocery store and carrying their groceries home, and we just kind of are lazy Americans playing video games all the time, and that's just so sad. But how do you motivate people to get excited about going to the gym?
Yeah, they got to feel it, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just like anything else. It's going to be uncomfortable when you get in there. So, like, just that's the early win. Like, damn, this is uncomfortable, but I keep showing up and doing it. And now you're comfortable in there, and it's you met some people, and it's like that's the quick win. And then losing a little bit of weight, see a little bit of gains. You keep stacking those wins up, and it becomes a fun thing. And for me at this point, it's a spiritual experience. Like that's, you know, as much as I've developed my relationship with God, you know, I go to church and listen to the pastors talk, and a lot of time I think they're just talking bullshit, dude, and I'm not really even down with it. But when I get in the gym and it gets quiet for me, and I can just experience my body and the space. And, you know, I think yoga, a lot of those things are the same way. That's driven into to spiritual cultures, you know, experiencing your body like that. And you're out of your thoughts, you're out of your stuff. It's just you and your body.
Nothing else to think about. Your brain is off. You're just focused on feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really spiritual, man. That's very true. Tell us about some of your wins. You've placed at the Emerald Cup, United Champions. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Like I said, the biggest wins we're just getting up there and doing it to begin with. And then like I've never been super competitive in the sport in the way of like, oh, I got to beat this guy, I got to beat that guy. And I have a lot of buddies that are like that, you know, and because for me, it was always just about feeling better about myself and beating where I was at. So every time that I've got up there, I've looked better and better. And that's the biggest win for me. You know, I've never won a show all the way. I've been, you know, a lot of second places. And
which is a huge feat in and of itself. Like, don't shrug that off. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a competitive physique with, you know, a lot of the top guys in the area. But yeah, I mean, so the biggest wins for me are just scrolling back through it and seeing like, okay, damn, yeah, I look better every time. And just building myself up the way that I want to build myself up. And now I'm more focused in the business stuff than anything, you know. So finding that balance between the two, it's a perfect business for me because I could be in the gym all day long and work out and do business, and it's just a lifestyle I like.
How did you get to be this successful business person if like college was never something that was on your path? Like you're obviously a successful business owner, an entrepreneur that just kind of did it, but were there mentors or?
I don't even know if I'm really that successful, dude, honestly. Like I'm just getting my feet wet. Like I'm going through a divorce right now. Shit's fucked up, dude. I'm having to sell off one of the gyms, I think. Like, but
you're able to sell the gym. I mean, that must be a successful asset, right?
Yeah, I have assets. I have things now, and what was the question?
I'm just saying, like, without college and like
without college, yes.
You started a business. You did this. You built something. Were there mentors that helped along the way? Did you just like
same thing? I'm always placing myself against myself, and just the ability to be introspective. You know, and honest to God, I try to monitor the thought flow going through my brain and just kick negative shit out and think about the next steps that I want to do. And without college, whatever, right? Like, we're learning a lot of we're teaching kids a lot of shit in college, but we're not teaching them shit about themselves. And it's like, what's the point of going and doing all that if you don't really know what you want out of it?
Yeah.
And so first learning about myself, and then the technical skills have just come from doing it, you know, and solving problems as they come along. Okay, I want to grow the business. Fuck. When I got into the gyms, I didn't consider myself an entrepreneur. I was just a guy looking to fucking do something. And so I still kind of identified as like a construction worker. And I was like, I don't want nothing to do with sales. I don't want nothing to do with any of that. I just want to get some membership money, work out in here. And so I started to get some partners, come do sales, do training. And then I learned what it's like working with a partner in your business. You know, that hasn't gone good. And, you know, just little by little, like identifying, like, I picked up that first gym. We started doing it, making some money. And I was like, fuck, you know, we still had a house. And I was like, well, we could do this again, and Seattle would be the spot. And I kind of just stuck with the same thing, like trying to find a cheap lease that was able to be industrial or retail, the mixed use. And I found a spot in Seattle during COVID, super cheap, 75 cents a square foot.
Poof.
And so I sold my house and fucking did the same thing, bought some more equipment, did all the work myself, busted everything down.
That construction background came into play.
That's the big, I've been able to do that everywhere I've gone. That's one of the things that's allowed me to get into these gyms cheaper, is I did all the work myself, and built that into the branding of the gym. Like, okay, well, I don't have the fucking money to do Bellevue Club, right?
Yeah,
but, so let's make old school bodybuilding gym cool. That can still be cool and something that people want to do, right? Like old equipment, dusty.
Yeah.
So that's the vibe that I went with, and people have picked up on it and enjoyed it. Because that's a culture in and of itself. Like, people that are serious about lifting want to be around other people that are serious about lifting, and they could be in some sterile place with all brand new equipment and hate it.
Yeah.
So I guess finding a spot in the market for a customer that I knew, because it was myself.
Yeah. Something that attracts like-minded people. Yeah. And then it's easy to build that brand because it's just your target demographic, and people will find you if you build something that attracts people like you. That's very smart, man. And so that's just something that you learned, that you were like, Big Iron Gym is just going to be a gym for me, and people will come or they fucking won't.
The whole thing's for me. Yeah. Fucking, if I sell everything, it's all about the experience. And like I said, I like taking care of people. I like doing it, but ultimately it's a personal journey, the business thing. And so same thing, like, and social media comes into play too, in a way of picking up information. Like, okay, fuck, I need to learn sales.
YouTube University, man.
I broke up with my partners. My partners I had doing the training for me. I tried that a couple times. Didn't do great. I didn't want to say, it's just like public speaking or something. Like, I did not want to sell something to somebody. I couldn't identify myself that way. Like, I want to be a fucking salesman.
Yeah.
But once those broke up, I realized what a valuable, my mindset started to shift. Like, man, that's a valuable skill. And next thing you know, sales stuff's coming across my feed on Instagram. Hey, clicking this. I get a little course.
It's like they're reading your mind now, man. The iPhone algorithms are crazy.
So I start to learn what a sales process looks like. And taught it to my ex-wife. And the two of us would just go run all the consults, all the sales, and kick it down to trainers. And then, awesome. I learned the limitations of that, and I'm like, fuck, I got to start to learn how to implement some management systems and training systems, and that's its own process. And then an opportunity to get the third gym came up. Fuck, I'm still cash poor. But yeah, I give the guy a call, her gym's available. And we're in another sales process. Okay, well, what are you looking for, and what are you really trying to get out of this?
Yeah.
And so I was able to come up with a little down payment, get the dude to carry a note, and, grabbed a third spot.
Where are all the gyms right now?
Seattle, Everett, Marysville.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking to other people who have survived addiction, what is some advice that you can give to someone who's like, I don't know what my next step is. I've gotten clean. Now what?
I don't even know if being in that community, right? Like, first off, go find a meeting, go find a NA meeting, an AA meeting. Like, that's what you can really do to get around some people and try to get out of that. And that's definitely a good spot to get started. Oxford House was really big for me.
Yeah.
But ultimately, being in that community and having tried to save so many people, it's between you and God, dude. You got to get fucking knocked down hard and really be willing to face yourself to overcome that thing. Mm-hmm. Or otherwise, even without the drugs, you'll just end up being a dry drunk, whatever. Definitely find Narcotics Anonymous. Definitely lean on people that have been through it. There is hope. Just like anything in life, if you're willing to take the risk and put yourself out there, anything is possible. But you got to start with that little grain of mustard seed faith, before it can grow into anything else. And fitness is huge too. That just on a scientific level, it fulfills a lot of those dopamine. So I love getting new addicts in the gym, working them out, employ them if I can. Fitness is very good. It's something that fulfills a lot of those serotonin physical things that are going on.
In a healthy way. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was truly a pleasure getting to know your story. If people want to follow the gym on social media, where do they follow you?
Yep, Big Iron Gym on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Adele's got all these guys got all the socials.
Okay, good. We'll make sure they're linked in. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.